My sister demanded I move to a ruined barn because of my pregnancy, but when I confronted her and told her to leave my house, she never expected what happened next. I'm 26 years old. I work from home as a freelance graphic designer, and honestly, I need to tell this story because what happened in the last few months with my sister, Rachel, almost drove me crazy. The thing is, like 3 years ago, I inherited my grandmother Margaret's house. And with that house, I also inherited the responsibility of raising my 3 younger siblings after she died. My grandmother was basically the one who raised all four of us after our parents. Well, let's just say they weren't in the equation. And when she passed away, she made it very clear in her will that the house was for me specifically because she trusted that I would keep the family together. And she was right to worry about that. You'll see. So there I was, freshly 23 years old, becoming the legal guardian of Rachel, who was 17, Tyler, who was 13, and Lily, who was barely 10. The house is one of those old farmhouses that's been in the family for generations. You know, with that rustic charm that sounds nice until you have to deal with plumbing that's like 60 years old and windows that let in the cold during winter. But it's our house. It's what my grandmother wanted. And I was determined to make it work for all of us. The first few years were hard. I'm not going to lie, because I basically went from being the older sister to being something like mom and dad at the same time. But we managed it. We had our routine, our rules, and even though it wasn't perfect, it worked. Rachel started college 2 years ago. She's studying something related to business or management. I'm not completely sure because she changes her mind every semester about what she really wants to do. She lives here in the house, obviously, because the university is like 40 minutes away and it doesn't make sense for her to pay rent when we have all this space. Tyler is now 16 and he's in that teenage phase where he basically lives in his room with his video games and his headphones, comes out to eat and disappears again, but he's a good kid, gets good grades and doesn't give me problems. Lily is 13 and she's probably the most affected by all this I'm going to tell you about. She's sensitive, anxious, the type of girl who absorbs all the tension in the environment like a sponge. So, let's fast forward to the point where everything went to hell. Like 6 months ago, I found out I was pregnant. My boyfriend Jake and I had been together for 3 years. He'd been living here with us for like a year and a half, helped with the bills, and got along well with my siblings. I mean, he was part of the family already. The pregnancy wasn't exactly planned, but it wasn't something terrible either. I'm 26 years old. I have a house. I have a stable job working from home. Jake has a good job in construction. We were in a good position to have a baby, even if it hadn't been the perfect timing. According to some master plan, I never had anyway. When I told my siblings, the reactions were mixed. Tyler basically said, "Oh cool," shrugged his shoulders and went back to his video game, like typical teenager response. Lily got excited, started making plans about how she was going to help with the baby, and asking me if she could decorate things for the baby's room and all that. It was adorable, honestly. But Rachel, oh God, Rachel got in a horrible mood immediately. She didn't say anything in the moment, just sat there on the couch with that face she makes when she's angry but doesn't want to admit it. You know, that expression with pressed lips and narrowed eyes. I thought maybe she just needed time to process the news, that maybe she was worried that a baby would change the dynamic of the house or something like that, which was reasonable, I guess. But no, turns out Rachel had completely different ideas about how I should handle my pregnancy. Like a week after the announcement, we were having dinner, all around the kitchen table, like always, and Rachel drops out of nowhere. "So, Emma, I've been thinking, when the baby is born, you should move to the barn." I just stood there with my fork halfway to my mouth like, "What? Excuse me?" And she continues like it was the most logical thing in the world. "It's just that babies cry a lot, and I need to concentrate on my studies. I have early online classes and I can't have a baby screaming at all hours. The barn has space and you could fix it up to make it comfortable." I literally couldn't believe what I was hearing. The barn, for those who don't know, is basically a structure that's literally falling apart in the back part of the property. It has holes in the roof. The windows are broken. There are definitely animals living there. It's completely uninhabitable, like it's not even safe to go in there without worrying about something falling on your head. I told her, "Rachel, you're joking, right? I can't live in the barn. It's destroyed, and besides, this is my house. Grandma left it to me." But she insisted, "Well then fix it. You have months before the baby is born, and Jake can help you. He works in construction, doesn't he? Besides, technically it's the family house, not just yours." And that's where I started getting really angry because, seriously? Was she telling me I had to move to a ruined barn on my own property because she didn't want to hear a baby? I told her very clearly, I'm not moving to the barn, Rachel. I'm going to have my baby here in the house like any normal person. And if that's a problem for you, then you're going to have to find a way to deal with it. Tyler and Lily stayed super quiet during this whole exchange, like you could cut the tension with a knife. And Jake, who was there too, looked uncomfortable but supported me, saying it was ridiculous to even suggest we move to the barn. Rachel got up from the table, said you're being selfish, and stomped off to her room, slamming the door. I thought that would be the end of the conversation, that I'd made it clear, and she'd eventually get over her anger and we'd move on. But oh no, I was so wrong. That was just the beginning. The next few days, Rachel started what I call her silent war campaign. She completely stopped talking to me, like she wouldn't even look at me when I entered a room. If I said something at dinner, she just acted like I didn't exist. She started leaving her dirty dishes all over the house, her clothes thrown around the bathroom, basically doing everything possible to be annoying without having to confront me directly. And the comments, God. The passive-aggressive comments were constant. Things like, oh, it must be nice to have so much space in your house while some of us have to share a bathroom, or how convenient that you can work from home while others have to worry about getting to class on time. Every single day. The worst part was how this was affecting Tyler and Lily. Tyler handled the situation by doing what he does best, hiding in his room and avoiding all family interaction. But Lily was clearly stressed. She constantly asked me if Rachel was still angry, if everything was going to be okay, if the baby was going to cause problems. She had stomach aches from anxiety and her grades started dropping a bit. That was what really made me angry. Because one thing is Rachel having a problem with me, but involving the younger kids in her drama was completely unacceptable. I tried talking to her several times, like adult Emma trying to have mature conversations, but every time I knocked on her door or tried to pull her aside to talk, she'd turn her back on me or say, I have nothing to talk to you about until you reconsider the barn thing. It was like talking to a wall, or worse, to a wall that actively hated you. Jake also tried talking to her once, thinking maybe she'd listen to someone who wasn't me, but she basically told him this was a family matter, and he had no voice in it despite the fact that he literally lives here and is about to be the father of her niece or nephew. One Friday night, like a month into all this drama, we decided to do a family movie night like we used to do before all this exploded. I made popcorn, got out blankets, Lily chose an animated movie we could all enjoy, and we settled in the living room. I called Rachel to come down and she yelled from her room, I'm busy. I yelled back, come on, Rachel, it's just a movie, sometime with the family, but she didn't come down. I heard her door lock and music getting really loud, like her way of making it clear she wasn't going to participate. Lily got sad, asked why Rachel didn't want to be with us, and I didn't know what to tell her. How do you explain to a 13-year-old girl that her 20-year-old sister is having a tantrum because I won't move to an uninhabitable barn? We ended up watching the movie anyway, but it wasn't the same. Rachel's absence was like this heavy weight over all of us, and I was furious, like boiling inside but trying to stay calm for Lily and Tyler. After the kids went to sleep, I went straight up to Rachel's room and knocked on the door harder than I probably should have. She opened the door with that annoyed face and said, "What do you want, Emma?" And I basically exploded. I told her, "Look, I'm sick of this attitude. I'm sick of you making the whole family miserable because you're not getting your way with something completely ridiculous, and I'm especially sick of you affecting Lily and Tyler with your nonsense. This is my house. Grandma left it to me because she knew I would take care of you guys. And that's exactly what I've been doing for the last 3 years. I've sacrificed a lot to keep this home running, so you can go to university without worrying about rent. So we all have a stable place to live." I continued, "I'm going to have my baby here, in this house, and I'm not going to let you make me feel guilty about it. If you can't accept that, if it's really so terrible for you, the idea of living in the same house as a baby, then you're free to leave, Rachel. You can find your own apartment, pay your own rent, cook your own food, wash your own clothes without using my washing machine, and see how far that student loan you have stretches. But while you live here, while you live under the roof my grandmother left me to take care of this family, you're going to respect the fact that this is my house and my decisions." Rachel just stood there, obviously shocked because I think she didn't expect me to finally tell her things so directly. Her eyes filled with tears, but not the sad tears but the angry tears. You know the difference. And she said, "This isn't fair. I lived here my whole life too. Grandma was my grandma too. It's not fair that you have all the power just because she chose you. I responded, "This isn't about power, Rachel. It's about responsibility. Grandma gave me this house because she knew I was going to take care of you three, and that's what I've been doing. Or do you think it's easy being responsible for three people when I was barely 23? Do you think it's been easy paying all the bills, making sure everyone has food, taking Lily to her school activities, keeping track of Tyler's grades? I've done it because I love you and because it's what Grandma would have wanted. But I'm not going to let you make me feel bad for finally doing something for me, for having my family." There was an uncomfortable silence after that, and then Rachel said in a quieter voice, "Fine. If that's what you want, I'll move out. I'll find my own place." She closed the door and I stood there in the hallway feeling strange, like relieved to have finally said all that, but also exhausted and a little guilty, even though I shouldn't feel that way. I went downstairs and Jake was waiting for me in the kitchen. He'd heard everything, obviously because we weren't exactly whispering, and he hugged me and told me I'd done the right thing, that someone had to set boundaries. The next few days, Rachel was quieter, but less hostile, like she no longer made passive-aggressive comments or deliberately left messes. But she didn't talk much to anyone either. She started spending time on her laptop looking at apartments, showing her college friends options in Facebook groups. That kind of thing. Part of me thought, well, maybe this is for the best. Maybe she needs her own space and to learn to be independent. But another part of me felt terrible because at the end of the day, she's my little sister, and I didn't want things to get to this point. Like 2 weeks passed, and one night Rachel came down to the kitchen where I was preparing dinner, sat on one of the bar stools and just stayed there in silence for a moment. Finally, she said, "Emma, I've been looking for places to move, but everything is so expensive. Like even the most basic studios cost like $800 a month, not including utilities. And with my classes, I can't work full-time. I can barely manage my part-time job at the campus cafeteria. I don't know how I'm going to be able to pay rent and food and everything else and keep studying." I continued chopping vegetables for dinner and said, "I know, Rachel. Living alone is expensive. It's one of the reasons I'm so grateful to have this house." She stayed quiet another moment and then said, "I was really stupid, wasn't I? With that whole barn thing and acting like you were the bad guy when you've literally been taking care of me since Grandma died." I didn't respond immediately. I let the admission settle in the air between us. Finally, I said, "You weren't stupid, Rachel. You were scared. Change is scary and a baby is a big change. I get it, but the way you handled it was wrong. The way you treated me was wrong. And definitely the way you made Lily and Tyler feel uncomfortable in their own house was very wrong." Rachel nodded, and I could see she genuinely felt bad. She said, "Can I stay? Can I not move out and maybe we can try to make this work? I don't promise I'm going to be perfect with the baby, but I'm going to try to be better. I'm going to try to help more around the house and not be an idiot." I told her, "You can stay, Rachel. This is your house too. It always has been. But I need you to understand that Jake and I and the baby also have the right to be here and to live our lives. We're not going to walk on eggshells because you have exams or because the baby occasionally wakes you up. That's part of living in a family." Since that conversation, things have improved quite a bit. I'm not going to say everything is perfect because there are definitely still tense moments. Like the other day, Rachel complained that the baby was going to need the downstairs bathroom more than her, and I had to remind her that a newborn doesn't use the bathroom alone, but that eventually, yes, we're all going to have to share spaces, and everyone is going to have to be flexible. But she's making an effort. She helped Jake and me prepare the baby's room last weekend. She's been nicer to Lily. She even bought a little baby stuffed animal that she said was for her future niece or nephew. Now I'm almost 7 months along. The belly is already really obvious and all that stuff. And although things between Rachel and me aren't exactly like they were before all this drama, we're in a place where we can coexist peacefully, and that's enough for now. Tyler is still Tyler, completely indifferent to all the drama and happy in his video game world. Lily is less anxious now that the tension in the house has gone down. Her grades went back up and she's excited about the baby again. She's been making little drawings to put in the baby's room, and it's the cutest thing in the world. Last week, we were all sitting in the living room, including Rachel, watching TV after dinner, and Lily was lying with her head on my lap feeling the baby kick. And Tyler was half paying attention between his phone and the TV, and Rachel was on the other couch studying but without her headphones on, which was a sign that she wasn't completely closed off to the family, and Jake had his arm around me, and I thought, this is it. This is what Grandma wanted. For us to be together. Not perfect, but together. And I guess in the end, that's all that really matters.